What is up, everybody? I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, Heather C. Seeking Sister Wife. We're on season 4, episode 2. We met a new couple on this episode, so we're going to jump in. I have a lot to talk about, so let's jump in. Let's start with a familiar couple, the Merryfields. So we're in LA with the Merryfields, who are actually from Colorado, and they're visiting Leah, who is their potential third sister wife. And the situation with this is Roberta's not on board with them adding another wife. And it's probably because she hasn't made it to live with them yet and gotten accustomed to being in this plural marriage. So I do feel like adding another wife at this point is probably a bad time. And Leah's catching on with that as well. In one of the scenes, she's like, if Roberta doesn't agree with me being in this relationship, how does that affect my relationship with Garrick? And I think that based on what Garrick and Danielle have said, if Roberta doesn't approve of this, nothing will come of this. So do you feel like they're kind of wasting her time? Because until they get Roberta on board, what was the point of meeting Leah in the first place?
I think that, and this is my opinion, I think that Garrick is like in love with Roberta because he is like a little too much into her. I think that he's with his wife in LA because he has a kids with them. So she's going to be the main one. But as far as the new add-on, I don't see it. I feel like this is something that she concocted herself to like have some type of plan because clearly everything is all in shambles. They don't know when Roberta's coming, and I feel like they're not meshing well together.
When you said that, I remembered when they met Roberta for the first time, and Garrick literally was so happy he was crying. And they meet Leah for the first time, and the only time he starts crying is when he's talking to Roberta. The excitement isn't there. And that you hit it right on the nail. Like, he's not as excited about Leah as he is about Roberta. And I feel like he's more excited about Roberta as even Danielle. And it's almost as though, like you said, he's in love with Roberta, and then the other wives he kind of strings along.
I think that she's going to be a fill-in for Danielle, so that way
Right.
he could be with Roberta.
So I want to watch and see what happens, because Leah has made it clear that she doesn't feel like it's her responsibility to make things right with Roberta. You know, it's not her responsibility, and I agree with her. So we're gonna watch and see how this turns out. So let's head over to the Foleys. So Brenda and Steve are building a house for the mere purpose of building a large plural family. And they are dating April, and they've been dating for 3 months. They've known her for 5 months, and they've already had discussions between each other about her moving into this new house with them. And I think that that's a lot in 3 months. But at the same time, April is 21 years old, and she's completely on board with a plural marriage and a plural relationship. And I know 21-year-olds, and so do you, and none of them are really looking to settle down with one person, let alone two, and then start a family and then just kind of be, I don't want to say old, but you know, like when you're in a marriage, you're more settled and you don't go out and you don't party and you don't do the things that you would when you're 21. And I feel like she's doing this too early in life. Like, she hasn't really lived yet. Is she ready to do this?
It almost reminds me of like the traditional polygamy stories where the younger girls are courted to become, you know, a sister wife. And it's like, you know, however many wives they get, is closer they get to heaven and, you know, be holy and everything. But in this case scenario, I don't feel like it's for the religious purpose. I feel like it's more so just because it's like the it thing to do. Because she's so young and she's like kind of like diving straight into this, I think that it will be exciting in the beginning, but I think it will eventually fizzle out, because with younger people, you know, everything is an experience. And once you have that experience, what's next? So
Exactly.
I think that unless this is for the sole purpose of a religious background and this is what they were instilled, you know, I think anything else, I can't see this lasting long term, because she'll eventually want to start her own family. Nobody wants to share their significant other forever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if at all. So I don't see this happening long term. I could be completely wrong, but I don't know.
Steve did say on the episode that he's in love with April, and the look on Brenda's face, and she said that her genuine feeling was, well, what if he loves one wife more than the other? So I do think that this is going to definitely put a rock on their calm relationship and how things have turned out. And it's very difficult because with that age difference, as you get older and that other wife is still looking beautiful and young, the insecurity is going to get the best of you. So I'm hoping to see that they're able to manage that insecurity and just be open with each other. If she's not on board, I feel like it's important for her to voice that.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to talk about the Davis family. So April, Nick, and Jennifer, right? So we watched the date with Danielle. This is the first one-on-one date with Nick and Danielle. For me, the date kind of felt more like a lawyer going over a contract with a client, because he was like, look, this is a plural relationship, and are you okay with, people criticizing you, and are you okay with the idea of sharing time with me? I didn't really feel like they were getting to know each other. It was kind of like a contract. It was like, this is what's going to happen. Are you okay with it? Sign at the dotted line. But there is a connection, because even after that grilling session, she wanted to go home with him, which was essentially extremely awkward, because she was essentially going home to April and Jennifer's house to sleep with their husband. This was such
they
a
were
awkward...
cheerleaders. They were like, yeah, you go. That was the weirdest, most awkward thing to see, because, that's how I know I'm built different. I could not be in any type of plural marriage, because if I was sitting at home knowing that my husband, whatever, was out with somebody else trying to bring them into our relationship, let alone knowing that they're going to sleep together, that's how I know I'm not built for this, because I'd be at the door waiting to fight somebody. I would have to get bailed out of jail, because it's not for everybody. And I think that's why this show is so interesting to watch, because it's like there's curiosity. This is interesting. I don't want to do it myself, but it's very interesting.
All right, so finally, I want to talk about the Epps family. So we met the Epps family, who are basically living between Euclid, Ohio, and Orlando, Florida, which is extremely interesting in itself. And we find out that, first of all, it's Marcus, India, and Taryn. Marcus and Taryn are married. India is his fiance. Yeah, they're engaged. And we learned that he's an elected official in his home, where he was born and raised in Euclid, Ohio, but his family for the winter lives in Orlando, Florida, which I totally understand, because I live in Ohio and I hate it in the winter. So what they're doing there makes a lot of sense to me. So we got some background story on the relationship, and we found out that Taryn and Marcus were together about 11 or 12 years, and he started cheating on her, and she didn't stand for it, and she moved out of the house. And that's when he met India, and he was engaged to India. And then he decided that he wanted to work things out with Taryn, and he actually moved Taryn back in the house with his new fiance. And that's when they brought up the idea of a plural relationship. And actually, Taryn was on board, because she said, well, this is basically what we're doing. India was not on board. She said it took time, and the relationship between them is actually what made it happen. She said for any other person, she wouldn't have done it. But the fact that they got along so well and their families meshed well is what kept them together. So they're courting a third wife, Bina, and she's going to be coming up on a date. And we did learn that Marcus is also dating other women. So unlike the other situations, he is going to be dating her, but he's also dating other women as well. And they're trying to find a good match for this family. So what's your first impression? Because I know we just met them. There's a lot of complexity to this story. So what do you think it is? Because this didn't start out as a religious move into plural relationships. He was already cheating, and it kind of made it okay. Is that how you look at it?
I look at it as a classic case of your cake and eat it too. I think that, he wants to play the field. I think he wants to have this person and this person and this person and so on and so on. But he also wants it to be accepted. So that way, if you know I'm cheating, you can't be mad at me. If you know I'm cheating on you, then it's okay, because you're accepting it. So you can't get mad. You can't burn my clothes. You can't throw a fit, because we're on the same page. And I think because she's so in love with him, because they have such a long history, her heart is keeping her going. And then because you said she meshed so well, with the sister wife, that, it became such more of like a friendship or a sisterhood.
Yeah.
But I think that he's like trying to push his limits to see how far he could take it. Okay, she's okay with the one. Let's try it too. Let's try, you know what I mean? It's like keep going.
Right. They have such a big family already, and they have kids living in the house, and then when their kid's best friend, and adding a third, and then she's living in another state completely as well. So this is adding a third state into the mix. And like you said, how far can they push this?
I don't know. I think that it's crazy because it's becoming more like acceptable to cheat. And that's really what it is. It's acceptable cheating. Because if she would have stood her ground and been like, no, I was your only woman for this many years. And if I'm not good enough for you, then that's not going to work out. But instead, she let her heart get in the way and said, well, I don't want to lose you. Now she became a sister wife when clearly she probably wasn't built for that life either. She just had to learn to deal with it because she wanted to stay with him. And I don't fault her for that because the heart wants what it wants. But I don't think that he should try to label this as polygamy because he wants to have a collection of women. But like I said, it's so hard to see. We watch the show for an hour once a week. We don't know these people. Their segments are small. So these are only like first impressions. So they could be completely great people, and they might study polygamy, and I could be completely wrong. So I hate to judge a book by their cover, but just from what I've seen in the short segment that we saw them in, that's my first case scenario of what I see.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that adding a third at this point is kind of extra. And we did learn online that he claimed 2 children on the show, but there's a total of 10 that they've listed in the news stories. And again, these are news stories that people are putting out. I can't verify that that's true, but if he does have 10 different children by I don't know how many different people, that's also a interesting aspect. And then the fact that he didn't voice that on the show is also very interesting. So we're going to have to watch and see. I want to believe that everybody is in this for the right reasons. A lot of people have stumbled into this lifestyle as we were watching this season. A lot of people said it never crossed their mind. They stumbled into it and decided that it worked best for their lives. So I just want to see how it plays out. And we haven't seen a lot of positive result adding wives on the show. So I want to see if we're actually going to see people positively get the result that they need in adding another person and keep things going happily.
Great. And what I would love to see as a plot twist in one of these seasons, we've seen it years ago on another channel when they did something like this, is when the polygamy roles were reversed and it was one wife and multiple husbands. So there is different case scenarios and varieties of this type of relationship. And so far, we've only seen the same thing over and over again. So it would be kind of interesting to see it from different perspectives. How do the men feel? We know how the women are feeling. They're feeling kind of insecure and like jealous. How do the men feel when the men keep getting added on? We should see it from both perspectives.
And on that note, that's it for the Seeking Sister Wife podcast. We're on season 4, episode 2. Make sure you're live tweeting the show and live reactions of what they're seeing. I will also be doing that. Thank you for joining us for the podcast. I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, Heather C. We'll see you all really soon.
Bye.